This is just a really quick video comparing the MSR Hubba 1 and the Naturehike Mongar UL1. The Mongar one is quite clearly a copy of the MSR with some differences. So I'll just set them up and go over the differences and what I think of both tents. First I'll do the weights. Inside is the tent body, fly and poles. There's no pegs and no ground sheets in these. The Mongar 1 weighs 1.18 kilos. And the MSR weighs 1.28 kilos. So it's 100 grams more for the MSR. I'll go straight in with a small negative of the MSR. I don't like this bag that it comes in. I don't get it. Maybe it serves another purpose, which I don't understand. It has this weird top opening and this flap, which I find completely unnecessary. And it's really too bulky for the tent which is inside it. And it never really packs up that well compared to just an ordinary stuff sack that you get with the Naturehike tent, which I think is much more usable. So these are just the bodies of the tents, and it's quite clear where Naturehike got their inspiration for making the Mongar. They're extremely similar, but there are quite a few differences. So the Mongar sits quite a bit higher than the MSR does, gives you more headroom. And there are also more attachment points for the body on the Mongar than there are on the MSR. So the MSR only has 2 per side, whereas this has 1, 2, 6 per side. So it gives more internal space. So where this wall is pitched at quite an angle, this is much steeper, so you get much more internal space with the Mongar. And next is the size of the doors. The door on the Mongar is much bigger than it is on the MSR. It's not a tiny door on the MSR, you can still get in and out comfortably. The headroom is still adequate, but in the Mongar you get far more headroom, probably 6 inches more, and the door is just way bigger. There's only one small internal pocket on the MSR, and it broke years ago, and it's quite useless. It didn't hold anything anyway. It does have attachment points in the corners at the top where you can attach your own cord to make a washing line, or you can get the MSR, I think it's called the gear loft, which is an optional extra and it's quite expensive, but nothing is included. The Mongar has 2 big pockets either end, and they're much more usable than the little one in the MSR. So there's one on the head end as well. And the Mongar also comes with guy line pre-installed inside for you to hang things on, or a washing line. The Mongar also has this little door on the opposite side so that you can get into things on the other side of your tent. The exteriors again are very similar. The MSR is made of a slightly thicker material. I think it's 30 denier versus 15 denier, but I'm not sure. How much longer that lasts in the grand scheme of things, I don't know. They have very similar front vestibule space. That is without using the Mongar's extra vestibule, which I'll show you in a minute. The door opens differently on the MSR than it does to the Mongar. So the Mongar opens from the front, whereas the MSR opens from the side. Now they can both be folded back the whole way so that you have the complete front of the tent open. So you just remove these and then tie it back that way, and that's the same on both of them. But I do think opening from the front is better than the side. When you're trying to open the MSR from inside, especially if it's wet or raining and the fly sheet is wet, you have to reach down. Imagine lying in the tent and trying to reach down to the bottom here to get to the zip toggle, and you very often get a wet arm from touching up against the fabric. Whereas on the Mongar, you just reach forward and grab the zip. I will say though, because there are 2 zips on the Mongar tent, which I'll show in a minute with the second vestibule, you can accidentally grab the wrong zip, or you can pinch together this extra fabric for the vestibule, which can be annoying. You get used to it after a time. At each end of the Mongar, you've got these extra guy ropes which pull the wall of the tent away from the tent body. The tent fly doesn't come as low as the MSR does, but it gives much better airflow. The MSR, on the other hand, doesn't have anything here. It doesn't really flap about too much, and it does come slightly lower, so it gives perhaps better weather protection, but I've had the Mongar in terrible weather and I didn't experience anything. And the condensation is just negligible in both tents. If you're going to camp somewhere where there is going to be condensation, you're going to have condensation. At the rear of the MSR, the wall is very steep and there's very little room under here for keeping anything. You could still put a backpack in there or prop a couple of pieces in there. You can also only get to them from the outside and there's really not that much room. Also, the wall doesn't come down that low. So you've got quite a big gap all the way along. So if it is really inclement weather, anything in there is going to get wet. On the other hand, the Mongar at the rear has loads of space. And you can access it from that little door on the inside. Also, the walls come much lower to the ground. So anything in there is generally protected from the wet. I've been able to store nearly all of my stuff just on the inside here and then have only my important stuff in the vestibule. But on top of all that, the Mongar has an extra special feature, which is this awning. So there's an extra piece of fabric which is sewn into the door, which is normally clasped away with these toggles. And there's a second zip. So you unzip the door, release the toggles, and then zip these two together. It's really a piece of cake. Then you can use anything. You can use trekking poles, you can use sticks, you can use extra pieces of spare pole, which I'll talk about after, and 2 guy lines, and you can make this really huge awning. I used this tent in really bad weather, and I had a trip where it was my primary accommodation for 6 weeks, and it rained a lot, and this thing just made the difference between having a really rubbish time and having a moderately rubbish time. It's been raining all day, and being able to just chuck all my wet gear here rather than inside the little tent space and not be rushing around is just amazing. The pros of the MSR are definitely longevity, and that brand name has a reputation for a good reason. I have had tent pole section failures on this tent, but I bought it 5 years ago second hand, and anytime I've contacted MSR Warranty about replacement pole sections, they've always sent them to me free of charge. Probably important to note that this is not the current model of MSR Hubba 1. They've since gone to a carbon pole set, which I've read mixed reviews on, and they've also hiked the price considerably. I think the one person's about $1,000 Australian now. But you can still pick up second hand plenty of these for around 250 to 300 Australian dollars. So a similar price point to a new Mongar. They are also sometimes available online new for around 600 Australian dollars. As to the negatives, one is definitely the price. Obviously it's very expensive and it doesn't come with any extras. If you did want a ground sheet, you're going to have to pay another $100 for it, whereas it comes free with the Mongar. Another small negative for the MSR is it is much smaller inside than the Mongar. It's still really livable. And to the pros and cons of the Mongar tent, some obvious pros are the price. It's very cheap. It's usually around 250 Australian, but you can quite often get it with a coupon for around 200. It comes with the ground sheet included if you use it. I don't, but still it's a bonus. It has loads of room inside. The thing is a palace. And also the awning feature of this tent just can't be understated how good it is. It's an amazing extra function, and to be able to have all of this extra space if you're in bad weather, it's revolutionary for a one-person tent. On to the negatives. Longevity. I don't know how long this tent will last. If you watch my other video about the long-term review of the tent, the poles snapped very quickly and they don't feel as sturdy as the MSR ones do. Now I've had a replacement pole set sent and it does seem to be slightly different. It's just a different colour, but it's the same feel as the original pole set, so I don't know if it's going to last any different. I am going to use the old pole set to make awning poles, which will also constitute spare pole sections if I should ever need them. I'd bear that in mind if you're planning on buying this tent, to budget an extra $30 or so to get an extra tent pole section from Amazon. So they sell just lengths of tent pole pre-assembled, so that you can get 2 meters of tent pole for $30. Just make sure you get the right diameter. I think it's 7.9 millimeters. I'll double check. And then you can also make those awning poles and not have to carry trekking poles or go hunting for sticks if you need them. As to which tent you should buy out of these two, I'd say overall, it's up to you what you need them for. If you're looking for a tent for longevity, and that alone, then it's the MSR hands down. If you're looking for a tent with loads of cool features and big livable space. If you're okay with taking a bit of a risk on longevity and carrying some spares like the pole sections or making your own awning poles, then I would pick the Mongar. It's just that much bigger, and it has this huge awning, which is great. And it's available brand new, so you can buy it and still keep hold of that warranty. Whereas if you're going to get the MSR, you're probably going to be looking at a second-hand one. The warranty is still good, yes, but it's not going to cover things like fly or body failure. It'll only really cover you if the pole section breaks. You know you can reliably get new pole sections. Thanks for watching.